Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to Piece of Gamer Girl. I'm Gray, and we are picking up with The Beast Within, where we left off yesterday. I still can't get Observer to work properly. Hopefully I can fix that sometime this week. But right now, we're going to check out some castles. Because Grace has finally stopped being a bitch to Gertie. And we got the car keys. Go us. Alrighty, let's see. We have Rittersburg, which is where we came from. We have NEUSCHWANSTEIN, which is actually a super cool, beautiful castle that really exists. If you've never been there, you should visit. And Hirenshmi, I don't even know if that's how you pronounce it. Hirenshmi? I don't know. Let's go there first. I feel like this is going to be a lot of reading.
I can't see the displays until I've gotten past the counter.
Oh, maybe we should get a ticket.
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
I'd like to buy a ticket.
Ich hätte gern eine Eintrittskarte fürs Museum.
Ja, 8 Mark für eine Ganztagskarte.
Grace always has such a freaking attitude. It drives me crazy.
So,
Danke.
bitte.
Granted, this bitch isn't exactly the nicest person in the world either, but chill the friggin' hell out, Grace.
Guten Tag.
Guten Tag.
Let's ask her, see if we can ask a question.
Ist das die Ludwig Museum?
Ja, ja. Ludwig II. von Bayern.
Seems like a stupid question to ask, considering there's a giant picture of Ludwig right here.
Elizabeth of Austria. One of Ludwig's few close friends was Empress Elizabeth of Austria. She was a distant cousin of the boy Prince, and he saw her often growing up. Graceful and beautiful, Elizabeth seemed to represent the feminine ideal to the younger Ludwig. Their friendship continued after her marriage, mainly by correspondence. She remained a source of stability for Ludwig throughout his life. In keeping with Ludwig's love of romance and drama, he called her the Dove, and he to her was the Eagle.
That's a little shady, but okay. Cool.
They certainly make an incredible looking couple. They certainly make an
You see, I knew it. I knew it. I'm not gonna let Grace read this.
July 3rd, 1863. The feelings of sincere love.
Ew. Oh, so Ludwig was totally in love with Elizabeth.
Elizabeth frequently gave Ludwig advice on royal conduct, hoping to protect him from unfavorable public opinion.
You've not written me in a few months. I've missed you. I've often tried to imagine what you're doing. I hear tales that you've been on retreat and have not been seen in Munich for some time. I suspect it is this new friend you wrote of so mysteriously that takes you away from home. You've always been a true king, but you must let the people see you to ensure that they don't forget that. Oh man, they had some weird, like,
Ludwig's friends were
incestuous thing
concerned for
going
his
on,
mental
definitely.
state long before his arrest. June 14th, 1878. My beloved Eagle. In your last letter, you spoke so movingly of your torment that I was moved to tears. What is this torment? Why won't you confess to me what is truly troubling you? You must know that I would never despise you, no matter how horrible you believe your sins to be. Please do not write such barbs to my heart by even suggesting such things. If you do not wish to confess to me, at least tell me how I can aid you. I am always your true one, your dove. In this letter, dated November 1886, Elizabeth of Austria thanks Bishop Frank for his assistance in helping her fulfill Ludwig's last wishes. She writes that she knows it was an unusual request, but she believes Ludwig had reasons of his own for wishing it to be done. She hopes that his spirit finds peace at last. No further reference to this letter has ever been found. One can only speculate what the last wishes of a cornered and embattled Ludwig might have been. What were his last wishes? This place is giving me more questions than answers.
I mean, it's a museum. What did you expect? Is that the only part of it we can see? Oh, I guess not.
Oh my God. That's the sleigh for my dream. Maybe Mrs. Smith will know what my dream meant. I have to ask someone.
Oh man, we're gonna have to talk to the crazy lady again.
Sleigh.
Wait, what's that say?
The midnight sleigh rides. Ludwig went on long sleigh rides in the middle of the night, particularly in his later years. It is said that he suffered from insomnia, headaches, and toothaches, and the rides soothed his restlessness. The sight of the king's grand sleigh speeding through the countryside of the Alps often startled the peasants and became a superstitious omen of ill fortune.
Interesting. I feel like having a toothache in that time period must have really sucked.
Ludwig's death mask. Wow.
Ew.
I have no idea what that says. Looks old, though.
King Ludwig II.
June 7th, 1886. A group of men arrive at Neuschwanstein Castle demanding to take the king in custody. With them is Dr. Guden, the doctor who had been in charge of Otto, the king's mentally ill brother. The men have an order for the king's arrest on the grounds of insanity. They are refused admittance by a brave group of farmers and local soldiers who have come to Ludwig's aid. They are forced to retreat to nearby Hohenschwangau. This is the first Ludwig hears of the conspiracy. Ludwig composes a pamphlet explaining the subversive acts of the conspirators and eloquently pleading with his people for aid. The pamphlet is smuggled out of Neuschwanstein and printed, but the pamphlets are seized before they can be distributed. June 12, 1886. Ludwig knows the conspirators will return. He despairs. He asks his servant for the keys to the tower. The servant, fearing the king intends suicide, says the key is lost. Unbeknownst to Ludwig, the conspirators arrive at the castle. This time, there is no one to stop them. Ludwig is lured from his bedroom to the entry hall of Neuschwanstein on pretense. There, he is taken into custody. Ludwig is taken by carriage from Neuschwanstein to Berg, where his brother Otto had long been imprisoned. This is a great blow to the king's state of mind. While on the way, the group stops at Seeshaupt to change horses. Ludwig asks to see the postmistress, Frau Vogel. She brings him a glass of water and he says something to her. She never reveals these last words to anyone.
What? Sorry, I know this is taking a while, but this is actually mildly interesting.
June 13th, 1886. At Berg,
because I
Ludwig
feel like a
seems
lot of this
cooperative
is
and coherent.
true.
Dr. Guden writes to the government that he has Ludwig well under control. The two men go out for a walk, and Dr. Guden is so confident he dismisses the guards. When Ludwig and the doctor do not return after several hours, a search is undertaken. The bodies of the two men are found in the lake, drowned. Circumstances unknown.
Like, I'm pretty sure Ludwig II actually existed. And I think that a good chunk of this stuff might be historically accurate, but I could also be extremely wrong. I don't know. I'll check maybe after I'm done.
June 18th, 1886. Ludwig's funeral procession marches through the streets of Munich, followed by enormous crowds of mourners. The service is held at a packed St. Michael's church. Lightning strikes the church during the service, but no one is harmed. Ludwig's body is entombed in the Wittelsbach crypt at St. Michael's. His heart is placed in an urn in the pilgrimage chapel at Altading in the Wittelsbach tradition. The urn is shown to the right. His heart is in an urn. How bizarre.
That is weird. Okay, have we seen everything here? Not yet.
December 14th, 1881, Linderhof. Order another work by Jennings on the occult. Write urgently to Klug, saying that I insist that the stoppages by the bank cease. I want it, and therefore it must be done. Write very urgently. He must succeed at once, and then must report to me urgently. If I give orders to clear my room, doing so must not be postponed as it happened. Pencils must be pointed without special orders. The day after tomorrow, 1,000 marks. How is Louis now? I want to know whether he looks unhappy. How often have I said that the coffee must not come up boiling hot, so that it can only be drunk after standing an hour? If any more correspondence come from Louis, they are to be burnt immediately, but I am to be informed of their arrival.
It's getting weird. It's getting weird.
These are actual notes from Ludwig to his servants. They go far in showing the king's state of mind. They were smuggled out and used as evidence in compiling the order for Ludwig's arrest.
I mean, I don't think any of it sounds like he's crazy. Eccentric,
December
maybe.
18th, 1881, Linderhof. Every day get up earlier, for certain. See to that very particularly. Write it down. Remember that when the great friend arrives at NEUSCHWANSTEIN, we retire to the hall. We are not to be disturbed. I will not tolerate interference or insubordination.
I don't know. It kind of just sounds like kingly behavior to me. Maybe I'm crazy.
Ludwig is Prince Charming. He played the part well.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I think that's everything we can see here, because we can't go back into this hall, and I don't believe this woman has anything else to say to us.
I don't have anything to say to her at the moment.
Alright, let's go see the other castle. It's so pretty, isn't it? Oh, man. I love Neuschwanstein.
These scenes seem to tell a story, but I have no idea what story.
And the music in this castle is always my favorite.
Our tour begins in the entry hall. Ludwig II lived from 1845 to 1886. He assumed the Bavarian throne at the age of 18 when his father died. Ludwig's passion was building castles. He built 3 during his lifetime: Linderhof, Herrenchiemsee, and Neuschwanstein. Plans for a 4th castle, Falkenstein, were underway when he died. In addition to his obsession with building, Ludwig also had a passion for classical heroic German mythology, a taste he shared with the German opera composer Richard Wagner. Neuschwanstein is decorated throughout with themes from these stories, most of which directly relate to Wagner's operas.
I wonder where that door...
The closed door leads to the tower, which is not part of the tour. The king was making his way to this very door when he was arrested in 1886.
I wonder if Ludwig really meant to throw himself from the tower the night he was arrested.
You are now standing in the king's bedroom. The theme of the bedroom is Tristan and Isolde. the tragic love story retold in Wagner's opera. The opera was given its first performance in Munich in 1865, and a 20-year-old Ludwig attended. This is probably the most elaborate and expensive bedroom ever created. It took 14 woodcarvers 4.5 years to create this room. It was this kind of extravagance that bankrupted the king. In the years before his death, he found it increasingly difficult to find money from any source. The richly carved bed, with its canopy, resembles a Gothic building and its turrets. The bed's draperies were handmade by dozens of Bavarian seamstresses.
Maybe Ludwig thought all this luxury. Did they have running water?
Scenes from the opera Tristan and Isolde. Scenes from the opera. This is Ludwig's private chapel. The king was a devout Catholic, as were all of the Wittelsbacher rulers. They supported the Roman Church even when other European countries were dominated by Protestantism. The stained glass window depicts St. Louis receiving the last sacraments.
The Black Madonna of Altadin. I wonder what her story is all about.
This is the king's living room. The walls are decorated with scenes from the Lohengrin saga. The king first saw Wagner's opera Lohengrin when he was 16, and it so affected him that he considered it a form of enlightenment. The tragedy of Lohengrin was his essential loneliness. This too was Ludwig's own fate. Ludwig withdrew more and more into his fantasy world of epic heroes and absolute monarchy. An ideal he was determined to create in his castles if he could not have it in his real life. He only wanted to be alone with his dreams, so much so that even his servants were kept at a distance and were not allowed to look at him.
What were you afraid they'd see?
The miracle of the Grail.
These linens look seriously expensive.
The swan motif is featured throughout the castle, but it is particularly prominent in this room. Both the swan and the lily were symbols Ludwig associated with himself. They represented his ideals of majesty and purity. The painting behind the swan shows Lohengrin's arrival.
More swans.
This is a reproduction of the grotto from the Tannhäuser saga. In such places, Ludwig could pretend he was one of his beloved mythic heroes. As the grotto personifies, the castles were solitary playgrounds built for Ludwig alone. He believed the masses were too coarse to appreciate fine art, and he seldom entertained guests. In fact, Ludwig had a standing order that upon his death, the castles were to be destroyed. Fortunately, the estate was in such debt that the castles were opened for paying tours only weeks after Ludwig's death. They haven't closed since. It is one of the great ironies of Ludwig's story that the castles that he was thought insane for building are now considered Bavaria's finest treasures. They have paid for their construction many times over. This is the king's study. Ludwig spent much time at his desk writing letters, drawing up plans for his projects, and studying his favorite authors. He loved poetry, history, and the classics. In later years, he also studied the occult. What affairs of state he did reluctantly attend to were generally attended to alone at his desk in writing. His reluctance to meet with his heads of state and perform the duties of the king were one of the reasons for the charges brought against him in 1886. But Ludwig dreamt of true kingship and a true monarchy, and the small powers left to him after Bavaria succeeded power to Prussia only incited his disdain and frustration. The study paintings depict scenes from the Tannhäuser Saga and the Wartburg Castle. This is the final room of our tour, the Singers' Hall. It was modeled after the Singers' Hall of the Wartburg Castle, where minstrel competitions were held in the 13th century. The hall was built for small private concerts, but Ludwig himself never gave one here. It is said that during the last few years of Wagner's life, he came to NEUSCHWANSTEIN frequently and performed for the king alone in this room. The hall is probably best known for its enigmatic wolf paintings. The original paintings were from the Parsifal Saga, but in 1882, Ludwig had them replaced, supplying the description and titles of the new paintings himself. While all the other rooms in the castle show scenes from Wagner's operas, the scenes in this room are not from any opera that anyone can identify. It is yet another of the many mysteries associated with the life of the fairy tale king.
Well, he's not in. Oh well. Where are the Smiths? Go get the Smiths. Get the Smiths.
Are the Smiths in their room?
Yeah, I believe so.
Could you ask them to come down, please?
Oh, yeah, natürlich.
Alrighty, Ludwig dream.
I had a dream last night. I didn't remember it at first, but I saw something today at one of the museums.
What was the dream?
I was being chased in the woods by wolves. And I saw a sleigh. Ludwig was inside. He pulled me up, and I thought I was safe. But then he turned into a wolf.
So what do you think, Mother?
A dream of rescue is a spiritual guide dream. The High Priestess in Gabriel's cards must be linked to Ludwig somehow.
What do the wolves represent?
I'm a psychic, dear, not Freud. But the warning I got was about the black wolf, wasn't it? And the wolves in the dream. It must be the same danger.
It's so frustrating. The more I find out, the more questions I have.
Why don't you try a little communicating of your own? Ludwig's the link. Appeal to him. The answers may not come right away, but at least you'll give the guide something specific to say the next time she contacts you.
Isn't there any way that you could, do a psychic reading on Ludwig or something?
To tell you the truth, I've been trying all day to make contact, but I only feel great despair. Ludwig's soul is not at peace.
I'd better go.
Anytime you need us, stop by.
And be careful now.
Thanks.
Okay, guys, we're going to leave it there for today, and we'll pick it up in another episode. If you like this episode, please hit the like button down below and subscribe to my channel. That would be awesome. Or you can follow me on Twitter at PCGamerGirl. See you next time.